Excellence and Student Achievement Award 2024 to James Slim Whitlock in recognition of his efforts to enhance student achievement within the Hatch Valley Public Schools. And on a personal note, I'm gonna truly miss seeing Slim walking his white apron up and down the street to the post office, to the bank. And I know every time I run into him, we chat out there at the post office and he would always say, "How are you doing?" "I'm doing good." And I'd ask him, "I'm doing extra good." And that's one thing that I'm truly gonna miss. And I know the community's definitely gonna miss how kind he was and how giving, and anything that we would ask for the schools. Even I remember anything we needed, he was always there for us, and he's definitely going to be missed, but always remembered. And thank you. Okay, item number 1, approval of consent agenda. Members of the board, I believe this is the first time we're going to use a consent agenda. So members of the board, are there any items that you wish to be removed from the consent agenda and discussed individually? Okay, and if not, Mr. Secretary, will you please read out the consent agenda items?
A is approval of agenda. You want to do
Yes.
and then we vote?
One
Some
D.
of them?
No, we'll do the whole item from 1A through D. So just read those out so it's captured of what we're consenting to.
A is going to be approval of agenda. B, approval of minutes, 4/10/24 regular, 4/29/24 special. Those are the dates. C is approval of bills, April 2024. D is approval of budget adjustment requests, transfers, cash requests, maintenance bars, 1,100 or 11,000, 13,000, 21,000, 23,000, 24,101, 24,160, 25,153, 26,107, 27,126, 27,575. Transfer bars 24,330, 27,407, 27,552. Increase bars or increase bar 23,000, 5,000, 23,000, and this is the cash amount 5,000. Dr. Karen Trujillo Foundation.
Thank you. If there is no objection, these items will be approved. As there are no objections, these items are approved. Item number 2, Mr. Chavez, reports.
Yes, thank you. There's several items that we're going to be going over today, and some are requested and some are just included for informational purposes. The first is, I'm sorry.
Motion. Yeah,
Well,
we need.
When it's a consent agenda, we've had time to, I went and looked at those bylaws and it stated that if there was no objection, since we already decided to use a consent agenda, that they did not have to be an individual vote or just with an objection. I believe that's what I read. I'm not sure,
I
Mr.
think there'd have to be a motion.
Well, we already consented to it. Well, we can.
You can.
Yeah, but the way I read it from Robert's rules of bylaws. Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead and take a vote. But then if okay, so we would just
Make a motion
I
to
make-
A
approve
motion,
the
I guess,
consent
to approve
agenda.
the consent
So
agenda.
moved.
Okay,
Second,
second. Okay. Okay, so moved by Mr. Gonzalez, seconded by Ms. Caray. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say no. Agenda, the consent agenda approved. No, I'll look more into that and see, there was a checklist, too, but,
It's our first time. So.
yeah, but, but
The first item for the superintendent report is from SFE, and I know Mr. Mark that you had asked for more information on the nutrition program. And so we do have Mike Lozano from SFE that is here to present information. I know you had some questions about lunches and
Yes.
some of the concerns about like Lunchables and things like that.
sugar
So he's-
content.
He's here to talk to that. He's also going to talk a little bit about the new rule that is being pushed by DEV.
Awesome.
Good
Welcome.
Mr. Board President, Madam,
Mike, you can pull the-
Board member.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
board members, Mr. Chavez. Just real quickly and real briefly, just put a real quick presentation of how we come to make our menus and what we have to do with regard to following the regulations and requirements of the USDA. So we're going to talk about minimum standards, maximum standards, and how these standards are implemented into the menus we use. Next slide. Real briefly, there is a lot of information on this page, but this is what the USDA mandates with regard to the different grade levels and the different meal components that we serve. So we have fruit, vegetables, additional vegetables. We also have proteins, grains, meat alternates, and fluid milk. For each one of those grade levels, we have different levels and different requirements for each one of those meal requirements that we have. It's a lot of information there. One of the things that we're looking at, one of the more important things is the sodium content. If you look at the sodium on 1A, that is where we are at right now. So for K5, we need to be under 1100 milligrams of sodium for K5, 1225 for 6-8, and 1280 for 9-12. In 2025, that's going to come down also. That's going to be significantly dropped. Okay. It's just a real quick overview of what we have to do with regard to when we build a menu. Next slide. This is the program that we use for nutritional analysis. If you see a green check mark, that means that the week is good to go with regard to the nutrition requirements, and that we've met all those little things that the USDA is requiring. That X in the bottom is actually because there's no menu there. So that's the only reason we have the X. So this would be the menu for the month of May for elementary school. Each one of those items are individually listed, and we work with our menu using all that information. Now, the items that are in Titan are entered by dietitians that work for Southwest Food Service Excellence. So all the items, all individual items are in there, and all the nutritional information is inputted by the dietitians. The other thing is that they also build the recipes per how a chef wants to make, let's say, a lasagna, okay? They will input the information, they will put in the instructions, they will put in all the requirements that are required. So let's say a lasagna is required, you're gonna need at least 2 ounces of grain. We can't make it up with all just the pasta, so we need to use a bread roll to comply with that. The meat, we know that we have to serve at least 2 ounces of beef or meat with that. And that's a combination of beef and cheese. Cheese is also would be a meat alternate. The sauce in the lasagna is also considered part of the requirements. So there we would have like the red sauce or the spaghetti sauce. And then we also serve, we always serve like a vegetable with that. The other requirements that we have is that a child, in order for them to receive a reimbursable lunch, okay, they must take at least 3 items. One of those items must be an entree item, which in this case, let's just talk about the lasagna. They can take either or the vegetable or the fruit. And then the third item is the milk. Now, if they don't want to take the milk, okay, they can take the lasagna, the fruit, and the vegetable, and that would be considered a compliant meal. Okay, any questions with regard to that? Next one.
I have a question on that. At the elementary level, you don't just serve a plate, you actually give them options at the elementary
Yeah,
level?
we do ask them if they want the vegetables. If they don't want the vegetables, we encourage them. We ask them, okay, then you need to take a fruit, because we don't want them to leave the line without a full plate. A lot of the times, because let's say kinder and first grade, they really can't make up their mind, but for us to be in compliance, we will serve the full tray. Okay? Any more questions?
No.
Okay, this is a weekly analysis. This is the week at a glance, or actually this is the daily and the weekly at a glance. So in that first column, you'll see the daily requirements that we have met. And you can see is all of those rows are green and or yellow. If it was red, then that would mean that we wouldn't be in compliance on those rows. Okay. So on that yellow, it's saying that yes, we've met it. And in this case, we've actually gone over the 9.5 or 11.5 ounces of, let's say, a mean alternates, which is fine as long as we meet the minimum. We can go over on those items, okay, as long as we don't go over on the fat content. That's not more than 10% of calories, and we don't go over on calories. Okay, each one of these grades levels has a minimum amount of calories, a minimum and a maximum amount of calories that we need to offer on a daily basis. Next slide. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit into the proposed guidelines, okay? If you see it in green, it's because we're already doing it, okay? These are the proposed guidelines that the PED is wanting to implement for next year. No less than 50% of reimbursable national school lunch program and school breakfast programs, including the entree, must be prepared freshly in the cafeteria. Okay, so when we talk about fresh made and prepared, like the meals that they're talking about, where they don't want us to buy, let's say like a frozen lasagna. They don't want us to buy a frozen lasagna. They want us to make sure that we are preparing that lasagna, where we're cooking the beef, we're preparing the sauce, we're putting the lasagna together. It has to be no less than 50%. We make sure that we're preparing those meals in the cafeteria. We are already there. Okay.
And that includes the breakfast program too?
The breakfast, yes, it does include the breakfast program too. So we have cinnamon rolls, okay? Okay, so let's say cinnamon rolls. Our cinnamon rolls come in frozen, it's a frozen dough, okay? But we do prepare it freshly in the morning, okay? Some of the items that we are closed or maybe need to look at to comply is that one of the following performance measures. We need to follow one of those. So no less than 50% of the schools in the school food authority shall grow food on campus with seasonal incorporation. We could do that. Or no less than 50% of the schools in the school food authority shall have cafeterias with print or digital resources. We could do either or, but I know that we could get to number A and B. Okay, we could do that in A and B. My leaning to do right now is B because it's the easiest one to do. A is something that we could do, right? We're working and
We're actually
Yeah.
in a really good position to be able
Mhm.
to.
okay, next slide. All students kindergarten through grade 5 shall have 20 minutes of seat time. I believe we already do that right now. That's in compliance. Share tables, we do share tables in all of our schools for breakfast and lunch. The share table is one of those, it's a table that we have for kids that do not want to, let's say, they don't want to drink their milk, they put it on that share table. If somebody else wants to consume it, they don't want to eat their apple, they're able to put it in there. It could only be like packaged or prepackaged or like whole fruit that they could put on the share table. We won't see any pizza, we won't see anything that's prepared on that table. The share tables are going to be provided where food service staff, students, and parents may return unopened, allowable food daily, and most exit points in the cafeteria. And we already do that at all of our cafeterias. Something that they'd like us to look at is to have a system for monthly donation of unused food to students or community-based organization. It's something that we could do. We just need to make sure that we coordinate it with any of the community-based organizations that are interested in picking up food. We can also distribute it to school students if they'd like. A lot of those items we wouldn't be able to do prepared food, because prepared food, we would get into a liability, whereas they take it home and if they don't refrigerate it or if they don't prepare it correctly, they could get sick from it. So as far as whole foods, milk and stuff like that, we can give out.
Mike, I think also, we're in a good position also with the, opening of our food bank. I'm wondering if we could partner with, Casa de Peregrinos,
Right.
for that.
Yes, yes, we are.
What about the after-school programs? Do these,
We're,
get the
right now,
same-
we have a dinner program that we're doing right now. The dinner program is a whole different menu that we prepare for the kids. We do sometimes in some occasions use some of the leftover meals that are left over from lunch for dinner so that we don't throw it away. We utilize as much as we can. In some instances we can, in some instances we can't. Okay, but yes, we can do that. Next slide. And item number 5, kindergarten through grade 5 shall be offered recess before lunch at least 2 days during the school week. That would be something that would be a decision made by, it's an academic thing that,
Yeah,
In
we wanna
scheduling.
do, Get with our principals. and make
Yeah,
sure
to do that.
We're following.
And what's the reasoning to have it before and not after?
So it's, before it's to get the kids active and,
We
Get 'em hungry?
More hungry. Yeah, but that was the whole thing, energy and then they're thirsty and they want to drink their milk. Yeah.
and and also it does calm the kids before they come into lunch.
That is.
Okay.
So
Yes.
that's
Behavior
that's
problems do
something
go
that's been scientifically proven.
Okay.
We are looking at implementing a plate waste study on a quarterly basis is what we want to do. We want to see how much food we're actually throwing away. I need to get more criteria with regard to what it is that they want us to track, whether it is the pounds of food that we're throwing away, or if it's vegetables or fruit, or maybe just menu items that maybe the kids don't like. We do have children that will go through the line to get food, and unfortunately, they do throw the food away. It's sometimes kind of difficult, and in our line of work, it's something that's real prevalent. The third one shall have a composting program in place. I believe we could probably do that also. We could use any of the vegetables and that are going bad, any of the fruit that's going bad, put into compost, let it do its thing in that compost barrel. So that we could do that and use it in our gardens. Next slide. Number 6, on at least on a quarterly basis, school food authority shall actively engage students and families in food and nutrition services through formal process. We have an informal process where we actually go out to the cafeteria, talk to the kids. Our managers go out to the cafeterias, talk to the kids, see what they like, see what they didn't like. They also monitor the trash cans to see what's going into the trash. We do that informally, but I would like to have a formal process to do that. And it's something that we're looking into implementing for next school year.
Mhm.
Next slide. Number 7, kind of goes into the same thing, implementing an advisory council that should consider student family input and should meet with school food authority administration on a quarterly basis. That's kind of tied into number 6. It's something that we are going to do for next school year. If we look at letter B, this is very effective because if we invite students and families to provide a formal food bag to come into our cafeterias, okay, then the parents get an actual view of what's happening in the cafeteria. Okay, so when they come into the school, they see what the kids are offered, and then a lot of times they're surprised by what the kids are throwing away. They understand some of the reasoning behind why kids may complain and say that they're hungry at the end of the day. And I'm kind of the person that looks at kids and I say, I don't understand why kids don't understand that they should eat and at least try anything that's on their plate. They shouldn't just like admonish it and throw it away and trash it. But the parents, we would get parent buy-in with regard to that, with them understanding how the kids are thinking and what they're actually choosing and what they're actually doing in the cafeteria. We're also going to conduct taste tests for both breakfast and lunch for menu items on a quarterly basis. That's something that I'm shooting to do for next year. Next. Okay, so this has to do with the education of the kids with regard to nutrition. Some of this has to be built in to the curriculum, and principals need to be to see how they could work that in. Something that we try and do is provide access to nutrition education activities on a quarterly basis. We don't do activities per se, but we do provide education for kids to take home to their parents. And, we've been using the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program heavily in these past 2 months. We've been utilizing a lot of fruits and vegetables, and we send information with regard to, let's say, an avocado, nutritional information, the background of the name, where it came from, that kind of thing. Next. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
I do have, I have one question, one concern. I'm a former principal in from the district,
Mhm.
and I would see what options the kids got on a daily basis at the elementary level.
Mhm.
I'm a little concerned because what I saw coming through that line at the time, kids weren't taking the required choices and they weren't made to take the choices.
Okay.
Some of the kids were coming away with one item and then they were hungry later.
Right,
So that's a concern for me.
right.
And then the other question I have is, are you taking any steps to increase the amount of students at the high school that are currently eating at the high school? How are you gonna address that to?
Yeah,
entice them in?
we've tried different things at the high school to entice the kids to keep them there at the school, for them to enjoy their meal at school. One of the things that we've been trying, and it's we thought it was going to be a big hit, but we've been able to maintain our counts, but we have not been able to increase our counts. So let's say, for example, we entice the kids every day with hot wings. Now, hot wings, it's nutritionally valuable. We serve it with fries, but it's not something that we've been successful in keeping the kids from leaving the campus. The other ideas that we're thinking is that maybe, and we're looking at, is having a table on the exit door or right by the exit door to where kids can take food for lunch. Instead of just walking out and doing whatever they'd like. That's something that we're gonna be looking into next year. The high school level has been one of those where we're just struggling. I mean, we're serving like anywhere from 200 to 235 kids a day, depending on the day and how many kids are available for, on that day at school. We have an enrollment of about 300 and some odd students at that school. So we'd like to get that more to the 85-90% participation level. So we've been looking at ways to keep them there, but hasn't been very successful. So we're looking at different ways, and the food service staff there at the high school, we have put our heads together to make every effort to see how we could keep those kids there.
And I do have a clarifying question. The 50%, would that be 50% for the breakfast program and 50% of prepared foods for lunch? Because my biggest concern is the breakfast. A lot of that is prepackaged.
Yeah, we have a lot of prepackaged
For
food. So
breakfast, it's very, and I understand it's difficult, but what do you foresee for breakfast? The lunch, I mean, a lot of it is,
Yeah.
50% is prepared, but the breakfast, they have burritos that are in package. They have sausage on the stick that's prepackaged,
yeah,
cereal, even, well, the cinnamon rolls.
yeah,
once in a while, but it's,
yeah.
I know it's difficult. So what do you foresee in the future with this?
Well, what we're looking,
breakfast
yeah,
look
what we're gonna look at to make sure that we're above that 50% level with
Mhm.
regard to what we're offering for breakfast.
For both, okay, so
Okay,
50%.
So it's 50% for
Okay.
breakfast and 50% for lunch.
Awesome,
Okay,
okay.
any other questions?
And I know the ladies for the teachers, whenever we have a teacher in service, something the breakfasts are wonderful. I mean,
Oh,
they're
that's great.
prepared. Yeah, I mean, I envision that for our students too. I mean,
Yeah.
having prepared
And then,
meal for breakfast also.
I've been to
Yeah.
different districts and we've done a lot of things to entice kids to the cafeteria. I've seen, where we have breakfast buffet for breakfast. And that was predominantly for a high school. Where it was pretty much a spread for breakfast for the kids to come in. We could also do made to order omelet bar. It's something that we could also do. There's so many other things that we could do to keep the kids there. The other thing we're looking at for lunch is that we can make kind of a demonstration cooking where we do like fajitas, where we do like Chinese cooking. The children and the student of Hatch are more into what they eat at home. So certainly doing chicken fajitas and beef fajitas would be a good hit. But when we go and try to do Chinese food or something like that, I consider that our Chinese food is as good as what you might get at Panda, but they shy away from it. So they're more into the fast food, pizza, hamburger, to-go food that they eat. So we're thinking of things, and we've got things down the pipeline that we're going to be looking at and trying to implement. There was also a question, I believe, Mr. Chavez asked me about the Lunchables. We don't do Lunchables in our school district. First of all, they're high in sodium. Second of all, that would be considered ultra processed food because it does have a lot of cold cuts, meats, that kind of stuff that goes through a lot of extra processing. So on to clarify, we don't do any of that. Any other questions you might have?
Thank you. Thank you.
Right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is we have a presentation from our FFA student organization. So they're here to share with us the exciting and great work that they're doing.
Good evening. I would like to introduce myself. I am Miss Niles. I'm the agricultural educator at the high school and their FFA advisor. Today I brought several students to talk to you about their accomplishments, upcoming events, and National FFA Convention.
Okay, so hello, my name is Joaquin Gajeda. I am here. Our chapter has been very busy this spring. Recently, we have competed in state CDEs in which our members did very well. Agronomy did placed fifth in state and received a plaque, and all other teams placed with top 10. Our members have also been busy with different events, such with other schools in our district. Just recently, we have been conducting ag literacy projects in elementary schools, in elementary classes, reading to our students about conducting in hands-on activities. We have reached 70 students in 4 classrooms. Coming up, we have state convention in which our students will be competing in public speaking and agro-science fair. Our chapter will also find out results on our national chapter and supervisor chapter awards. At this time, we will also find out results on our state officer election in which RJ in the running in June. Members will also be attending leadership camp to help develop leadership skills and collaboration with other chapters. We look forward to all future events. At this time, RJ will come up and discuss National FFA Convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good evening. We are here to request permission to attend the National FFA Convention. This convention will be held in Indianapolis, Indiana. It will be from October 21st through the 26th. This convention presents a unique opportunity for personal and professional growth, offering a range of workshops, career tours, and a career college expo that are instrumental in shaping the future endeavors of Hatch FFA. Participating in these workshops will not only enhance the leadership and agricultural skills, but also expose members to diverse perspectives and innovative ideas crucial for success in the agriculture industry. Additionally, the career tours and expo will provide valuable insights into various career pathways and educational opportunities, aiding members in making informed decisions about future endeavors. As you know, I'm running for state office to represent the state of New Mexico coming from Hatch. We will be selected pending the results at the end of this month at state convention. However, if selected, having the support of my chapter at national convention will be huge, because as I go on, if I make it into the state office and go on to national convention, I will be one of 500 FFA members in the whole United States to be known as the elite. We are representing the National FFA organization of over 1 million members, or just at 1 million members. Our goal is to reach 1 million members this year, and this is just an ever-growing agriculture industry. By attending the convention, our members will have the chance to show solidarity with our representative, gain a deeper understanding of their responsibilities, and contribute their success through active engagement, and contribute to their success. Experience will not only strengthen our chapter's connection, but broaden the FFA community and also foster a sense of camaraderie and unity among our members. Therefore, I am confident that attending the National FFA Convention will not only benefit me personally, but also contribute positively to the chapter's growth and reputation. Thank you for considering this, and I really appreciate the support from the Hatch Valley Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Guy. Now, Mr. Chavez, did we leave that off the agenda, or is there? are they
No,
asking-
when he said, they're asking for permission.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing, and I was like, holy cow.
You guys have to
but
come
they
back
said
and-
October.
Yeah,
so
you guys are
we
gonna
So,
come
yeah.
back, but you guys need enough time to write. There's some things that you guys need to get ready. You need to answer sooner than
Yes.
later, correct? So if you guys can come back in June,
Yeah, we can put it as an action item.
action item in
Yes.
June, and that way, and if you guys can come, if you to be willing to come back and
Yes, sir.
in June, and we'll get that for you.
Sure. We will.
All
And
right.
Mr. Garay, it's not if, it's when.
Yes, when,
Right?
yeah,
Yes. Okay.
definitely.
Well, hopefully. I'm running against 17 of the best in the whole state, and
Well, you
I've-
are one of the best.
I've had this dream since 8th grade when I saw state officers running up on stage and getting elected, and New Mexico FFA has just about 5,500 members, and to be able to go and represent those members is truly an honor, because I want to give back to FFA. They've given me so much, and I've always had state officers there for me. So I want to be that state officer that's there for those kids and that can show them the opportunities that FFA can bring. Thank
Just
you,
for a
guys.
question, how many people or students would be going to the convention? Like
How many people are
How many
attending
attending,
students?
how many students would be going to the,
from our school
Uh-huh.
or total?
no, from our district?
So right now, we're kind of waiting on our permission to go. So we're aiming about 8 students. Last year, we took 4 students. So we're hoping to build
About
on
8,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, yeah,
8 students and how many chaperones?
2.
okay. Students. Awesome.
If I can just say, we worked really hard over the years to really bring back our FFA program. And it's one of the requests that I heard a lot from parents, that they wanted to see our FFA brought back to what it used to be, the glory days, or whatever that means. But I don't know what that means, other than seeing these people doing amazing things. And I always mention about I personally was never an FFA, but I've seen the results of kids that do participate in FFA. And what I've said to people, for people that think that it's just about, farming or whatever, that's just a very thin slice of the pie. In my opinion, FFA is about leadership development. And these are 3 really good examples here of kids that are learning leadership skills. And so they use agriculture as the vehicle, but really, what we're talking about here is leadership development for kids. And Ms. Niles and the staff that just done an amazing job of working with our kids. And we want to see, I would like to see every kid, and I mentioned this to Ms. Niles a while back. I said, I would love to see every high school kid participate in FFA. And she looked at me with very scared eyes. That's a big task, but wouldn't it be great if we can get every kid, to participate in a program like this where they're developing their leadership skills. And,
Correct.
that would just be amazing in my opinion. But we'll take, what we get right now and
We'll grow from that.
Congratulate you guys for all the work that you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next presentation, Mr. Margarita, I know you had asked about our SRO and what's going on with coverage of our schools. And so we do have our chief here to talk a little bit about what's going on now.
Chief, congratulations. Chief.
And so while she's no longer at the school level with us as an SRO, she has moved on to bigger and better things, and she's having a bigger impact on the community. But she's here to talk to us a little bit about what's going on now and what she foresees in the future.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. You have any questions to begin with? That was my belief that I'm here to answer questions.
Who is going to be our SRO?
Well, right now we have a candidate. His name is Clark Smith. He's a 19-year officer. He is new for our department and he is volunteering to take the position. He's an older gentleman and like I said, with 19 years of career.
Where is he
Where's
from?
Good one. My understanding is that he grew up in Deming, now
Oh,
he's living in Las
all right.
Cruces.
Oh, okay.
Where was he an officer at?
He was employed by Deming Police and then he went to Luna County. And then from there, now he's with us.
Is he bilingual?
He's not bilingual.
But I would, but working in Deming, I mean, I'm sure he knows some, ¿verdad?
Yes.
He would- he
He's
would
not
understand
probably fluent,
Fluent, but he can understand. And
very good
Maybe-
with kids.
oh.
One of his main issues for the one that he ended up moving to Las Cruces was because of his family
Mm.
issues with his children. So seems like he's gonna be a good fit for the schools.
Is he living in Cruces or in Hatch?
He's living in Cruces.
Cruces.
Yes. I hated to leave the schools. I worked with you guys for 6 years. It was a great time for me. But well, like he said, he's
Well, and I just want to reassure the board that even though Rhoda has moved on to her new position, she's always, I still have her on phone, on my phone and call her and she answers, right away. She's always very receptive. Anything that I've asked, like any type of request or anything. She's been very receptive so the relationship is already there. It continues. It just looks a little bit different.
Right. So when he comes on board, can you have him come introduce himself?
Yes, that is my plan to
Okay.
bring him to you guys before the beginning of the school year.
Okay.
Obviously, we're just finishing up this year. I make an agreement with Mr. Chavez that I will stay in touch, close touch until the end of this year. I left early March. And like he said, any concerns, any calls or anything that the school had, he will come to me first and then I will address it myself or I will send an officer.
Awesome.
Any more questions?
Nope.
And I wanted to say thank you to all for all the time that I spent with you guys. It was great. Thank you.
Hey, the next report that we're going to go over is something that Mr. Gonzalez actually brought to my attention. And so as we looked into it, information that he shared with me is in fact exactly what he said. And so we got a little bit of information on that. There's an article in your packet. I hope you had a chance to read it, but what it is it's going to impact our coaches, but not only our coaches, it's also going to impact our game workers. And so I've been in communication with Mr. Sanchez on how we're going to address this, but it has to do with the Fair Labor Standards Act and the employment of non-exempt employees. And so that's our hourly employees, and it doesn't really affect us with our coaching, but it is going to affect us with our game workers. And so what we're doing right now is Mr. Sanchez has done a cost analysis. What is that going to cost us? Is it going to be any different? Right now, we currently we're paying people on a stipend basis. And what we'll have to do is we'll have to pay them hourly. And so, and that could also include any type of overtime that may come from that. So we're doing a cost analysis to see what kind of impact it's going to have on us. But as far as our coaches, I believe we'll be in a good place to not have any issues regarding head coaches and non-exempt employees.
Does that mean that if somebody's already working for the school and then goes and does games, it all works
If they're an
consecutive?
hourly employee,
Yes.
got to stay on the clock.
They stay on the clock, and that's where the overtime would come in if they're over.
That's good.
Okay. But the ones that you don't have on the clock, that you were giving stipends to, would have to clock in? Would have
Yes.
to, yes.
They will, so what will happen if there's a break between the end of their workday and then the start of an activity, they'll have to clock back in.
Okay,
So that we're compensating them
Correctly.
accordingly and.
Yeah.
You know, and we're in compliance with the law.
yeah.
Mr. Sanchez, do you have anything else on that?
Just on,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
just to clarify on that, Mr. President, Board. Just to clarify that, so a person couldn't get a stipend and paid hourly. So they would end up losing any stipends, and that's for any non-exempt employee. But that does not include subs. But anyone that's an EA, anyone that, you know, technically clocks in, clocks out would be unable to receive a stipend. They would have to get paid hourly. And for the coaching side, we looked at assistant's position, and that went from about a $3,000 to $4,000 stipend to well over about $12,000 is what they would be earning. And that's on a very basic schedule. That's
How is-
nothing extended.
How's that gonna affect us when we send a team to tournaments and we have our hourly employees go on tournaments?
Well, so right now we're looking at a total of 2 employees.
Okay,
So 2, take it back, we're down to 1. That we're looking at, that would be that one person would be affected by that change. So, but that can get pretty costly because then if you're offering that there, then you're gonna start offering that to everybody. So it's just trying to find a balance of what works better, but the hours that a coach puts in, depending on the sport, becomes astronomical because they've got a day job And they're getting their 37 and a half, so they'd actually have 2.5 hours that they could put in before the time and a half kicks in, but one practice and all of a sudden you're hitting that overtime pay.
Any questions, any other questions?
Is that same with travel? Once they're traveling, that's when the overtime starts? or-
So that would be a question we'd have to get with Mr. Childs would probably have to ask when their clock in time is, but as soon as they're with kids, we would probably start their time as they're monitoring. The question becomes like on an overnight trip. You know, are they on the clock the whole time since they're monitoring kids the whole time? Are they coming off at that point? Like that account, that numbering was actually more just on practice. It didn't take into games like what the role in is at a game, you know, those things. So that cost can get, and we're talking about an assistant again. We didn't go into head coaches. That timing is different. We didn't go into summer programs. Almost every one of our teams runs a summer program. Are those voluntary? We can't ask someone to volunteer according to the Fair Labor Standards Act. You can't. So are we now going to pay them for summer positions? That's where the analysis of over 10,000 was just in season and just including practice. We hadn't gotten into games yet because we needed some clarification on when does their time start? Who determines when they're on the clock, when they're off the clock? As a head coach, I'm also the head boys basketball coach. I come and I watch the JV game. If I watch, am I on the clock or am I off? So those are things that we would have to figure out to get a full accurate assessment. But a single coach, we're talking about $10,000 over what their stipend is.
So it may impact our hiring practices when it comes to coaches and game workers and things like that. So specifically coaches.
Question, all the other schools are doing this?
So I've called the multiple schools. I think I called 10 different districts. 8 of the 10 have moved into not allowing anyone that is an hour employee.
Yeah.
Now Cruces allows them to work games, but they clock in, they clock out. They are running into a bit of a problem though, because somebody who's not is getting a game fee. So you could be sitting next to someone that could be making twice as much as you because they're on the clock versus somebody who's not on the clock, who's on a stipend pay. So you've got to balance that out. You know,
Mhm.
does someone want to sit next to someone doing the same job they're doing, making twice as much? It's something that we would have to start considering.
Yeah. Ooh.
So all the implications that, you know, we
Yeah.
have to look into, and we don't have all the answers yet, but I think, it'll impact us, but I don't know that it'll be significant.
But no, there's some other things we're looking at still too, and we're trying to, we've been able to break down for the game workers thing where we're at, but now we've got to go back and make sure we counted the right hours for the game workers. I don't think that's significant. I think the significance is going to come in the coaching
Assistant
Mm.
coaches.
or head coaches,
Head coach, yeah.
any coaching position.
But most of those are certified, or no, I shouldn't say that. Most of the certified. most of the head coaches-
Certified.
Most of our coaches, our head coaches are, sir.
Yeah,
For
they
sure.
don't, they
Yeah,
don't do
most.
overtime. It's just
Yeah.
hourly.
But.
We do have a couple,
We do.
But we do have a couple of
Yes,
head
sir.
coaches that are not certified.
correct.
So we'll have to look into it.
Oh, wow, okay.
As we've
That's
we've tried to
hard.
look at
That's
every,
hard.
we've
That's
looked at
hard.
other districts. One district was a little upset because we brought it to their attention.
They're
I
like,
think the very
"Why?"
first word was like, take that away.
You
um,
can never-
And then they,
Say I was a little upset, you know, and Ray brought it to my attention, so it's a domino. effect, right?
Yeah.
Right?
You know, as we're checking into the other districts.
Conversation we had recently.
but 8 of the districts around us have gone to a situation where they do not allow non-exempt employees to coach. And what they do is they can't justify it.
Positions.
In a
It's
small
difficult
district,
in a
yeah.
small rural
It's too
community,
hard.
absolutely it is.
Can't find people.
And I did tell, Mr. Childs did ask me, he goes, give me a dollar amount. And I said, if you give me another $1 million, we'll take care of all the coaches. Don't worry. Because
What if we
do all
just
the
pretend we
hourly,
never had that
it
conversation?
starts- Because we don't forget, it's not just that increase, the benefits starts to increase, the percentage
Yeah.
kicks in, because we still now it's going in through the school. Workers are no longer gonna get paid through Dragonfly. We're gonna increase workloads on our business office. They're gonna have to write checks again. It's gonna have to go into their pay. Oh, the increase in cost of that there's a lot of areas where it's gonna increase. So we didn't just look at it we're not looking at it just from a straight dollar amount to the coach. Well, what about benefits?
Can we just forget it?
I wish.
It didn't exist.
I spent 4 days, like a few evenings where I just sat because no one ever wants to take someone away from something they love doing or they've signed up to do because we can't find coaches to do it. And so we've got people there. This is a scary conversation for me because what do you tell someone that does that? And some of those people that we're really going to affect are the people that may need it the most. These are your non-exempt employees. They're not making the big dollar amounts. And so to me, it's a real painful situation as an athletic director to maybe have to have some conversations with coaches and say, hey, you can't do this because as a district, we can't afford it. And they're going to need that more. So to me, it's a sad day, but you know, we've got to comply with what's out there. We have to do the right thing.
All right.
I'll stay here because I think I'm next anyway, so.
Yeah, the next one is the athletic student handbook, and something that Mr. Sanchez has worked on the last couple of years, you know, previous. I know when I first got here, we didn't have an athletic handbook, and it presented some problems, you know, with just different situations that arose. And so one of the things that I believe, Mr. Sanchez, you started working on when you were doing your internship here. And so so he's been involved with the student handbook, the athletic student handbook since we implemented it. But there are some revisions and we update it every year. And so just wanted to put it in your packet for you to become familiar with it. And if you have any questions, he's here to stand for questions.
You don't have to vote on this today. No, it's just reading.
No, it's not a policy, so you don't have
Okay.
to vote on it.
Okay.
It's just a procedure and what we follow that's in alignment with policy.
It's
And
in
the kids
alignment with
get a copy
NMA.
of this?
Yes, and we're gonna work on some differences in presenting the information to the kids to make sure they get a copy in their hands. I think this year what we're gonna do is send an email to every kid in their school email, so they'll have immediate access. We'll also look at posting it on our Canvas page up at the high school. We'll get with the middle school to make sure that there's also hard copies available at the front offices. Stuff that we're looking at, making sure kids and parents have access to this so they understand.
I think most importantly is the parents.
Yeah, but
The parents.
figure that
need to
one out. You let
understand.
me know. Because we do present this because every season has to have a parent meeting. And we try to take the key points of that. The parents right now using Dragonfly, which will improve our usage of next year. The parents have to register and the parents will have that they understand and have read the student handbook as well. So, and this is not a me working on thing. All our coaches have had input. Miss Olguin has argued with me on plenty of occasions, which I appreciate. I think if you surround yourself with people that just agree with you, you're not doing yourself any justice. So to me, hearing those different sides of it from the academics, especially, and I'm also, I believe we're student athletes, right?
Yeah.
We're students before we're ever athletes, and we got to make sure our kids understand that. And athletics should enhance an experience for a student. It shouldn't be their priority, but it is for some kids. It's the one thing that keeps kids coming. We have to accept that, but we have to keep pushing the requirements on them, make it a little bit where they earn those things. It's not just given to them. So the input from Ms. Olguin, like I said, Ms. Perry, obviously I share it with Mr. Chavez. We get all our coaches' inputs. And when I'm telling you, when you start including 11 head coaches' input, you get a lot of opinions, and that's great. I have shared certain things with students because I bring student athletes in that are some of our leaders, and I ask them, hey, what's going on here? You okay with this kind of rule? And trying to get as many people involved and to get their opinions. And it's interesting because it makes you think of a lot of different things. So if anyone has any questions, and if you want to highlight some of the bigger changes that we've made for you, but you know, that we did do this last year, and every year as we run into things, we'll make corrections.
I just have a question, not really a question, just like a scenario. Because I'm looking at quitting dismissal from team.
Okay.
Say you have a student who comes out for a team and they talk to coach and say, hey, I wanna give it a shot. I'd like to practice for a week, see if I like it. But here in your rules, it says 3 in-season workouts will be considered a member of the team. How are you gonna handle situations like that where you may have situations that occur like that?
So again, this goes back to their talking with the head coach. right? Our policy will be that if a kid, like a tryout, so the state mandates a 3-day tryout.
Mhm.
That's why the 3 days of in-season practice, you're coming, that's your tryout. Like any other school would have those, why the 3 days of in-season. Hatch Valley, we don't cut. We don't have a single program that cuts a student that comes out for a team. And I want to make sure that there's nowhere anywhere that says we have to cut, and we don't. So, but in my 3 years here, we haven't had a single program or a single activity. FFA will take any kid that comes and wants to participate, and we need to keep that idea there. But how long do we give a kid? So we want to go with what the state does. It's a 3-day tryout. After the 3rd day, you know, they've got to make that decision, because you start taking away opportunities from other kids that are planning on sticking it out and planning on being there. You know, we got to start setting a line somewhere. For us, I just wanted to align with what the state says, which is 3 days that you're mandatory to give them a tryout. So we're giving them those 3 days.
So the coach would just be very specific and state to the student, you don't have a week, you have 3 days, and by then you have to make, because it's in the handbook.
Because it's in the handbook, we'd take that out of the coaches. But now coaches, we do have coaches, and that's something that each program has to create on their own, right? The environment,
Yes.
what they're doing, and it's requirement of coaches to have clear standards and clear policies within their program. And so when you look at that too, it can go further on. A coach can release a kid. Like, if I meet with a kid and I determine after 2 weeks, hey, you're not enjoying this, you're not here, I, as a coach, can give them permission to move on to their next event. But what that does is it promotes talking. It promotes the idea that our kids are being responsible. They have to be like at any job. You just don't walk off the job and leave. You're gonna, you know what I mean? That there should be something that holds kids accountable. So the coaches do have the ability to let them go on to another team.
What kind of conversations are you having with your coaches with regards to those students that are multi-sport students and being accommodating to those students?
So you go to the next page in 3.3, that is the single biggest area we've had to define on multi-sport athletes. A person that plays 3 sports in 3 different seasons, that's not what we're talking about. That's a 3-sport athlete. A multi-sport athlete is anyone that's doing more than one activity at a time. And we have certain guidelines to that. If someone joins 2 sports at the same time, they join football and soccer, we do have that. They can continue with both those teams. If they quit one, that doesn't remove them from the other team because they started it. But you cannot leave a current sport to go to a new sport that's just starting for overlapping seasons. That's clearly defined in this. But one thing that we did write into that's 3.3 section D. Students must be given the opportunity to participate in as many activities in athletics as they can handle, while understanding that membership in an activity or team requires attendance at practice and a minimum level of skill to safely and effectively participate. Because that's something we've got to think about. We've got kids that want to do 5 or 6 things, and there's some kids that can do that with ease. But there are also some kids that when they go to too many things, they don't do well at anything. We have to make sure that they're safely and capable of participating. But we also have to remember, if they're part of a team, there's other kids that are participating. So you don't want to punish them, but you don't want to punish another kid who's there every day. So there's some conversations that have to happen with the coaches. And then one of the policies is if they're multi-sport, the athlete is responsible for communicating with all the head coaches. And we've done some things to help that. I actually want to tell you, Ms. Holguin has been huge on that, moving Science Olympiad to the class time, moving FFA to the class time. That has been a huge help, because we don't have a ton of sports where we're doing 3 sports ones. What it usually is a kid that's in tracks in Science Olympiad. They're doing FFA, they've got state. So this policy isn't a sports policy, it's an athletics and activities. All of our activities are included in that.
Are you gonna be having parents sign like a compact with regards to this?
No. They have to adhere to what we put down. That's what will be in that Dragonfly when a parent registers, that they understand, they've read it and they understand this. But you can never get upset for a parent coming in to defend or talk about their kid. You have to listen to them. You have to give them that opportunity to tell you what it is that's going on with their kid. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but every parent should have the ability to come in and speak to you and speak to the coach and try to find out what's going on. What we don't do is put a parent in a corner and say, you don't get to say anything. You're done. What you do is you invite the parent to say, we want you involved in your kid. We want you at their games. You should know their coach. The coach should get to know the parent. So what we want them to do is adhere to the rules we have. The one thing we don't discuss, but you won't find it in our handbook, that's up to coaches. We should never discuss playing time. But we should be discussing kids' well-being and their safety. And I'm okay with those conversations with any parent.
I got a question. What do you do with the kid? Cause you're talking about kids playing in sports within the Hatch sports, like track and whatever. But what if they're playing club and they're off and then they want to still come and play for you, but come game day, I have a tournament over there.
So 33AB clearly states multi-sport participation applies to sports or activities that are occurring at the same time of the season. But it has to be through only Hatch Valley Public Schools. If you are doing a club or something, it is your responsibility as an athlete. I'll have to find out here. There's a specific point. They have to make arrangements with their coach.
Okay.
But there's also NMA guidelines that limit the number of games a kid can play. So in the very beginning, we talked about following all NMA guidelines. So in softball, they're adhered to a 26 game season. If they go play 10 games with club, they can only play 16 with your team. Anything over that can result in forfeitures. So they have to adhere to those rules too.
But
Great, so that would you specify and be something about club sports, that doesn't include club sports, or how would
There is something in here, so give me a second, I'll find it for you real quick.
I thought I saw it, but I don't remember where.
We did have something in there. I don't have this one memorized yet, so. Any agreement to allow a student to participate in an outside team or organization will require an agreement between the coach and athlete. That's in 33A, subsection A, I. So right on the top of 3.
Okay, but what you're saying, here's baseball, he's playing here, he can only have so many games, but what if he's doing basketball, but he's doing baseball?
I can't control an outside agency, and I can't control an outside sport no more than we can control a kid getting tutored from in Las Cruces that's a student here. So that clearly is any sports organization outside of Hatch Valley Public Schools are not covered by this handbook. But that doesn't affect their game limitations.
Okay.
So that it's only within the same sport. So
Does it only apply during the season?
and just so everyone knows, the new NMA rules is there's no off-season rules. Those are governed strictly at the school that's the school level. The NMA no longer, there used to be a 7.5 hour rule. There used to be a set season. You had to give 2 weeks off. Those rules are all gone. The NMA now requires you as a school site to govern those. So we've been very clear with our coaches. I have been very clear that we're gonna still stick to kind of seasonal stuff so kids can do multiple sports. We do not want to specialize. And when we go back and look at Hatch's greatest moments and you look at the success, it follows those groups and it's in multiple sports. What we're fighting now and just in general in high school sports is specialization. Kids that only want to do one sport, and our best athletes need to be playing 3 sports. They need to be in multiple activities. They need to be representative of the Valley. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
The last item on the superintendent's report is the general obligation bond, and we did, a representative from RBC was not available, but they did send the information. And in your packet, you'll see on the first page, in the return page, it gives you kind of all the information of what they would be talking about. So we are getting issued 400. Sorry, I'm sorry. Heather's online. Oh, Heather's online. Oh, nobody would be here. I am so sorry.
Kaylee from RBC was not able to make it, and so she did ask if I would be willing to present this, although I will go through it as best I can. I am not the financial expert that she is.
Okay, well, my apologies.
No worries.
I'm glad you got me off the hook today.
Yeah, well, hopefully, we'll see when the questions come. Well, thank you. I'm Heather Boone from Cuddy and McCarthy. We are co-bond counsel for Hatch Valley Public Schools. We will be closing on Friday of this week with your 2024 general obligation bonds, which are going to be sold to the New Mexico Finance Authority. And the total amount of the bonds is $450,000. These are part of your 2021 GEO bond election, and that was for $1.8 million. You will, after this issuance, you'll still have $450,000 left on that authorization. So we are in really good shape for closing on Friday. And if you want to go to that next page, you can see NMFA signed the bond purchase agreement to buy the bonds or the debt on the 1st of April. Will close on Friday. The bonds will be paid this year and next year, so it's a pretty short-term obligation. The really good news is that the total interest that you're going to pay on that is $7,750 because you got a really good rate from the Finance Authority. And part of this is that they allow for 10% of the total obligation of the total loan, if you will, to be at a 0% interest. Under one of their disadvantaged funding programs. So that's terrific. The total cost then is $457,750. You'll see on this page that the interest did go up from some of the previous issues, and I think that's just a function of where the market is right now and nothing with the district at all. I am not going to go through the background market update for the whole economy, but try and answer any questions if you have them.
None.
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So much for being here with us, and look forward to visiting with you some more later.
Yes.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes superintendent's report.
Okay, item number 3, limited public comment. Ms. Sandra Williams.
Doesn't he have to read the? Doesn't Joaquin have to read the
Well, I think
rules
they
for
read,
public comment?
they signed,
No, they signed.
Oh,
yeah, they have the form here.
okay.
Yes, and they, each individual, since there's only 3, will have 5 minutes each, so, okay.
Good evening, President Marquez and school board members.
Oh,
Although I'm on Zoom.
okay, Sandra Williams, if you can do the 5 minutes.
Want me to do the front minutes?
Yes.
Give me 1 second, please.
Yes. Okay.
Good evening, President Marquez and school board members. Although tonight should be a day of celebration for me because my daughter is getting pinned for her nursing degree, I felt the need to come before you to address some issues that I hold very dear to my heart. During a special school board meeting held on April 29th, while reviewing the approval of our district's budget personnel issue, or to be more precise, jobs, were discussed. In being transparent, I did not come to the meeting, or for that matter, even view it live online, but unfortunately, others did. The following day, I was approached or received phone calls to ask if there was a personal vendetta that you held against me because it's apparent that I, alongside some of my colleagues, were being targeted. After I began watching the meeting, the conversation that ensued felt as if there was a personal attack not only on my character, but on my work ethics as well. When being referred to as that community engagement specialist and how do we hold those people accountable, I can only say that I felt like I was being personified as an object, not a professional, much less a woman or a person. During this open meeting, my position as well as other colleagues was openly discussed and questioned. Although you did state, I'm not naming people, just positions, because I am the only community engagement specialist in this district, which I'd like to mention, you have previous knowledge of my title as I personally have provided you with professional training. You didn't have to name me personally for the community and my colleagues to know you were referencing me. Just like everyone knows, we only have one high school teacher, one middle school teacher. The same can be said about most of our positions at central office. As you are well versed in board policy, being that you have received training on this, you know that according to Section E, Board Powers and Duties, it states that one of the powers and duties that the policy can hold is policy making, planning, and appraisal. And it does not grant you powers for expenditures for salary. But yet you spent roughly 40 minutes questioning the positions, money used, what line items they specifically related to, and the validity of these positions. I also saw how not only did Superintendent Chavez, but your fellow board members reiterate that if you had questions, you could meet with him at a later date and have that discussion privately. You kept stating that you were feeling very uncomfortable. So I'm sure you can only imagine my level of feeling uncomfortable to have my profession, my integrity and work values being questioned without having the ability to give my rationale. As I have worked in a professional level with two of you, you know my qualifications, yet you belittled and you humanized me in a public forum that was not only seen and heard by fellow colleagues, teachers I mentor, students, and community members, but to anyone who has access to the web. I would have gladly sat with you to discuss my qualifications and job description if you had truly wanted to know. But for those of you who don't know, I have been in education for over 25 years. I hold a BS in elementary education, a BA in secondary education. I hold a master's in curriculum and instruction with a specialization in bilingual ed. I also have a master's in teaching of mathematics and have endorsements in bilingual ed, TESOL, gifted, math, and language arts. I am also K-12 certified. I also have an administrative license, and I have worked precariously with my community to truly know their needs and what they are needing so that we can bridge the gap between the school, the parents, and the community. My job description says that I should help increase EL proficiency by modeling, enhancing teacher understanding, and academic achievement. To build and bridge the gap of language, culture, and norm, to provide opportunities of engagement for students and parents, and to proactively link education for greater partnership and advocacy between students, home, and the community. But in addition to what my job description says, I also do additional stuff. I am the EL Community Engagement Specialist. I work with COE's meeting and parent engagement for the migrant program. I aggregate data and work with the bilingual program. I am an FLA facilitator. I am an equity council lead. I'm doing Embracing Equity. I am the gifted provider. I am a new teacher mentor. I am a CLR initiative. I do the letters admin. I work with the whole district on licensure. On my own time, I do the photography for all sports. I do teacher PD, district PD. I work with an online PD, a Ludo, and I create content. I am the admin for IXL. I am also the admin for Achieve 3000. I work with prior students with college paperwork, FAFSA, and tutoring. I work with teachers with their dossiers and their micro-credentials. I sort teacher educational material for elementary and middle schools. I fundraise on my own time. I help with the FFA bilingual students. I help with Tower Gardens. I'm a judge with the bilingual field. I support athletic activities. I volunteer for the clothing bank and the food pantry. I make home visits with district social workers. I provide transportation for students as needed, and I model in the classroom or co-teach with the students. Now, as you may recall, Section H on effective boardmanship states that to be an effective board member, recognizes its responsibility is not to run the schools, but to see that they are run well by others. Remembers that board businesses at times requires confidentiality, especially in processes involving personal, legal matters, and land acquisition. Is interested in obtaining facts, but remembers that the administration has the responsibility of operating the school, not spending a great deal of time gathering data or making reports to an individual board member, and knows that the reputation of the entire school district is reflective of his behavior and attitude. Mr. President, I have worked diligently to build relationships with my community and colleagues, but with your words, my faith and my trust in you has been broken because I don't feel that you have my best interest at heart. As stated in board policy, you should promote and have good relationships and morale among staff. And I feel that your actions have caused for the morale of myself and many in my district to be impacted negatively. Mr. President, my question to you is, if policy wasn't adhered to in this process, how can we rectify this matter? And I hope that in me speaking out, there are no repercussions for myself, my children, or my fellow colleagues. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Williams, and that was not my intent. And I'm very honest, I've known you for very long and you're a very hard worker. I was just being very adamant about those job descriptions and making sure that we were given the information, and we're working on that. But I can let everybody know in this community, and I've always spoke very highly of you. You're a very hard worker, and I've known you for a very long time, and I know that you have the best interest of the students. So that was not my intent, and if that came across like that, I truly apologize. And I mean, I feel really bad about that, but that was not my intent. And if it came across like that, that's my fault. And I will make sure that everything that you said that I take to heart, and I will work on that. But I do want to make sure that and everybody knows that has worked with you, that you're an excellent teacher. You're very knowledgeable, and we all know that. So that was not my intent, and I apologize. But I do thank you for speaking out and retaliation or what you said. No, there's nothing like that. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that was not my intent, and I apologize and thank you for speaking out. And I don't know if you have any other comments.
I don't. I just want what's best for children, Mr. Marquez. You know that my passion is my community and my students, and they are my passion. I will fight tooth and nail for every single one of these kids, and I will fight tooth or nail for every one of my colleagues because I know how hard we work. We don't like people to know what we do, but we work hard every day from 7, sometimes till 10 o'clock at night. Because when I worked with those dossiers, I was working with teachers till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, because I wanted what's best for children. And in order to have what's best for children, is we have to have our teachers be prepared and ready to teach.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Okay. Ms. Kim O'Byrne.
Good evening. I got 5 minutes on here, so I don't waste any of your time. Good evening, President Marcus, board members, Mr. Chavez. Oh, it's going. You ever run a machine without any oil? It's like, it doesn't take long, and you're going to start to hear some metal grind against metal. If we don't take time to oil it, it makes our job so much harder. Let's consider the events in our everyday work schedule. When that grinding against grinding eventually creates a spark, it's going to ignite resentment and cynicism. So how do we fix that? Communicating with authentic appreciation and celebrating what is going good has the same effect as oiling those gears. Ever since January, we've heard a lot about what is wrong with our district. There has been questioning about why this hasn't been done and why that was done. At a recent meeting, Mr. President, you questioned positions, work ethic. I've heard questioning about my position as well as social workers, custodians, maintenance, principals, and teachers. We keep hearing that morale is low, and that is correct. We're better than that in this valley, and we need to stop creating divisions and find ways to mend those rifts to work together. Hatch Valley School District is somewhat like a wooden wheel. Every position, teachers, principals, secretaries, finance, social workers, custodians, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, including the board, is an important spoke in that wheel. If one spoke is broken or missing, the wheel can't turn correctly and our journey won't end the way we want it to. We are all here, or should be, for the same reasons. We are here to help our Hatch Valley students succeed in life. And you heard me correct. Notice I didn't say succeed in school. School is not their end game. Having choices in life and being able to set and reach their goals is. We are grown-ups in this room, but we are not acting like it. We are not setting a good example for students about how to lead with dignity, grace, and respect for others, that even at a difficult time, or if they have to stand alone for what is right, it's like that may be the most important lesson that we can ever leave them with. It doesn't cost a thing, and we can all try harder to lead by example. Let's stop grinding those gears. And let's add a little bit of oil of authentic appreciation for the job others do and celebrate the amazing things that are happening every day in our classrooms, on our buses, on the field, in our cafeterias. And if we have a broken spoke, let's work together to fix it. Not point it out and blame it for the bumpy ride. I chose to come and work in Hatch. I am proud to work in Hatch. And I know this valley, and I encourage all of us to rise and show corazón de oso. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Peter?
Yes.
Peter Atencio.
Good evening, you all.
Good
We
evening.
have 5 minutes, so I'm gonna make it as short as I can. To most of you in this room, I don't need any introduction, but to the ones that don't know me, my name is Peter Atencio. I've been a lifelong member of this community. My parents moved down here from Farmington when I was 5 years old, started kindergarten at the building that's across, that's Village Market now, and graduated in 1992 from the building that stood next door here at one time. Currently, I'm a local businessman here in the community. I've also been a village trustee for 5 years. And now, after the unfortunate passing of Mr. Whitlock, which I do have to say was a very special person and has left a void in this community that's going to be very hard to fill. I thought I'd say that before I get down to the point. Anyway, even after all that, I've acquired an unusual habit of butting into things that aren't really my concern. This one, however, is, in a way, I'll explain to you here in a bit. I reached out to Mrs. Garay and I reached out to Mr. Montes, being as I know them well, on this topic. I'm sure that Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Marquez knows about this. Mr. Legarreta, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's called the equitable grading system. Do you know what I'm talking about, Mr. Legarreta?
Not really.
No. Okay, let me explain it to you real quick. This is the correct word. As I spoke to Mr. Chavez and he educated me on that real quick. The teachers called it the 50 system. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I have 3 children. One's in 1st grade, one's in 6th grade, and one's in 8th grade. Okay. And this is the first time I've ever attended a school board meeting, which I'm not proud of, but I'm here. The equitable grading system, or the 50 system, as the teachers called it, was placed in COVID. It basically gives a student a 50 no matter what. An assignment that's given to a student, if they don't do it, instead of getting a 0, they get a 50. Okay. Mr. Marcus explained more or less the pros and cons of this system to me, but at the end of the day, the students have been manipulating it to a form where they're getting away with not doing their assignments and still passing. Okay. It may help the students with less academic ability, but it's also impacting the smart students, the ones that can, you know, because they can get away with scoring 100 on 3 assignments and not doing the 4th one and still getting a B. Why? Because they got a 50 for not doing anything. Okay. I hope I'm getting my point across as to how the system works. Mr. Chavez, will you please correct me if I've said anything that's false? Okay, it's okay. So now, guys, when these students get out into the real world, into the workforce, which boss is going to give them a half a check for just showing up and not doing anything? I don't think any boss will, right? We're basically instilling a poor work ethic in these kids by letting them get away with it. And I just wanted to let you know and inform you that that's what's going on. It was placed in COVID when students couldn't attend, and we all know, you know, what everything that happened in COVID. COVID's been over for 2 or 3 years. Let's get back to normal. Let's get back to where if a student doesn't do an assignment, he gets a 0 and his true ability reflects. I'm going to go one step further and let you guys know what I did. I'm very well known in the community. I reached out to as many parents of 8th graders as I could. Okay. The reason I told you a while ago, it doesn't concern me. My 8th grader is awesome. Straight A student. I even got kudos from Mr. Chavez today on her reading ability and on her academic performance. Okay, we push her, and my girl, my 8th grader, is one of the top ones in her class. Well, guess what? Out of 90 some kids, and this is the teachers, not me, making it up. You can please verify what I'm telling you. We have 30 8th graders that are failing. They have Fs even with this system in place. Okay, how can you fail if you're getting a 50 no matter what you do? Even by not doing the assignment, they're still failing. There's kids on the honor roll that are getting away with, 3 assignments, I've got 100s on it. I'm not going to do the 4th one. They're still a B student. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think that's the right way to educate our kids? I'm not going to stand for any questions because I don't know any more about it. You know, this is what I was informed by the teachers, but I think it's something that you all need to be informed about and that you all need to address. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
I would like your comments or your opinions. You two have been educators for a long time. Are you for that system? Are you against it? Can you please let me know? I spoke to Mr. Chavez. He explained more or less. Can I please have a comment from you guys?
I believe in that system. I mean, it's.
Why?
I think that when we talk about the kids having, let's say the student having 300s and decides to get a 50, that type of student is realistically is not gonna do that and end up with an 80. I mean, they're gonna, and the reason for the 50 is because one assignment that you don't turn in and it's a 0, it's very difficult in the 6-week system to make that up. Even if you got 100, you're still at a 75. And if you get 2 zeros in the 6-week period, you're done. And I'm gonna talk for myself as a student myself.
Do you
Once
or
I
not
got
agree
2
that
zeros-
if they have a 0, it's because they didn't do it? I mean, I don't care how challenged they are academically. If they did it or tried, maybe they got a 40, maybe they got a 50. That's how me and I'm sure Mrs. Garay and that's the way we were brought up in school.
And we can talk about assignments, but I do believe,
I'm
but
going to tell you one other thing that I did, Mr. Marcus. I reached out to 5 of these kids, okay? And I'm going to go back a little bit. My mother, okay, in the 1940s, she was born in 1938 in Mexico. She went to school for 3 years, okay? 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Then she was pulled out by my grandparents to take care of her siblings. My mother could read and write perfectly, and she could do arithmetic when it came to dollars like nobody's business, okay? 5 of these children, what I did is I pulled out an owner's manual from a vehicle and I had them read it to me out loud. 3 of them couldn't read an owner's manual. After being in school for 9 years, kindergarten to 8th, they could not read an owner's manual. I think there's something wrong. I don't know if it's the students. I don't want to blame the teachers. I don't want to blame the students. I don't want to blame the system, but there's something seriously wrong when a person who has been in school for 9 years can't read
and that
an instruction manual.
and the 50% hadn't been there even when that was happening. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the 50% has been instilled since COVID, correct?
Yeah, but not 9 years. No, but I understand what you're saying. But those assignments, and you can look at it in a different way too. If it's a classroom assignment, I could see if the kid just refuses to do it. But a lot of times kids don't have the same support at home. And let's say it's an assignment or project you have to do at home and you bring it back to class. And a lot of times, you may not have the support of other students, and to get a 0 for that, it puts the kid in a hole that it's very hard to get out of. And I understand where you're coming from. It's like you're giving somebody something, but a 50 is still failing. And I have a hard time, if we really want to know what kids really know what they know, show that in the classroom, and it's
To the
hard.
rest of you in the room, how many of you all know about that system? Just the teachers pretty much. Do you all agree with it? Do you think it's fair with that?
That's
Mr.
something they-
Gonzalez, can I have your opinion?
There are times when it works and there are times when it doesn't work. Each situation is different. You can't say it's gonna work for every kid, and you can't say it's not gonna work for some kids. So it really is dependent upon the situation, and it depends upon the child that you're dealing with at the time.
There's pros and cons, Mr. Marcus, to your question. There, and to just piggyback off of Mr. Gonzalez, there's pros and cons, as you know, to any grading system, whether it's a 100-point system or whether it's a 50-point system. It doesn't matter. And I did visit with Mr. Fencio this afternoon. I did talk a little bit about where that came from. And yes, it was implemented during COVID. But another aspect of that was it was another way that to address the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit and to develop an equitable grading system, one that is balanced and that distributes weights across all the spectrum from A to F. And there's pros and cons to both of them. I also mentioned that we had a conversation with principals yesterday. Yesterday. And that's one of the things that came up again, because it was brought to my attention when I was at one of our schools a couple of weeks ago, as I was presenting calendars, and that did come up, and we said, well, let's visit that, to address some of the things that Mr. Atencio is talking about. And one of the things that Ms. Brandy Holguin asked me is, do you think we can do the 0? Give that 0, because it's become an issue amongst several of our schools with our teachers. And so here's the thing, and this is what I said, and this is what I believe, is that I don't mind giving the 0 as long as there is a safety net or there is some type of amnesty for a kid to complete the work. So as he stated, when you get a 0, it's hard to recover from 0. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of a grade, and what does that reflect? Does it reflect what a kid has learned and what the kid knows? Because a lot of times when I get parents that say, well, the grade is an indicator of what they're doing as far as grade level work, right? But if we're throwing into that grade things that are of compliance, whether they did an assignment or not, and not capture what the child really knows. For example, your example of 300s and then a 0. Well, in my opinion, if a kid can ace 3 assignments, that's more a reflection of what the kid knows and not what he doesn't know. But we're also holding him accountable to that 0 because we're saying that there has to be some type of value. I get it. It's been a conversation that has been going on for many, many years. And it's true. We're trying to teach our kids responsibility as well. That's hard. It's hard to quantify, and it's hard to make sure that we are all making sure that what we capture when we translate some type of number system into a grade, that we have to ask ourselves, what does that capture? Now, at the high school, I've been assured that teachers are already doing it. They have like that safety net, right? They give kids that opportunity because as I was talking to Mr. Atencio this afternoon, life happens to some of our kids, and you just mentioned it, some of our kids don't have that support at home to be able to do that. And so maybe they didn't do it because they didn't have, maybe it's because they had some type of crisis going on at home. And as I've worked here over the years, a lot of our families and a lot of our kids come from very unstable environments. And so what we want to do is we don't want to punish kids because of something that is out of their control. So, but yes, we have to make sure that they are doing something, that they are being held accountable for that. And so that's why I'm not opposed to the zero, but there has to be some type of safety net also for kids to have the ability to make up work and I don't even care if it, you know, at the end of attempting to be able to do it, that they get the 50. That's fine. You know, because I think when we have that kind of system, I think it's a win-win. I think it addresses what Mr. Atencho's concern is, but it also addresses our kids and not being put in a situation where they can't recover from academically.
And how does this 50% reflect in higher learning? Are the kids doing better at the 50% when they move on to college? Or are they doing better when there was at 0% like we did in school, moving up, knowing that responsibility, having that on their.
Well, you know, grades are, you know, a lot of times it's determined by the teacher, right? And even in college, you know, I mean, how many times have you been in college classes or heard of college classes and you hear that the instructor usually takes the span of the grades and then develops the grading system based on that span.
Right.
So even that, you can't really say, you know, this is what it is, you know, so there's different ways of grading. There's so many different factors that factor into that.
And at the university level, I know there's contracts where you can get a 70, an 80, a 90, or 100, depending on what work you wanted to do. So it is sort of like real life. The more you put in, the more you get out. So if you want a 50 and I mean, but if you put in the work, the more you work, at least everybody starts with a 50, and that's still failing when you think about that. And that's
Just one last thing, because I know I've gone over my 5
oh no,
minutes.
that's
But
just
one last
the
thing, guys.
conversation.
It's my belief that kids from the age to 11, and I mentioned this to Mr. Marcus, kids from age to 11 to 14, the preteens, the adolescent, it's rough for them. Okay,
Yes.
it's so 6th, 7th, 8th graders, it's a rough time of life for almost everybody. But if we're not instilling work ethic in these kids at that age, what's going to happen later on? What's going to happen when they know that they can cut corners and still get away with it? I mean, it doesn't create and that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not creating, it's not instilling work ethic.
And I still remember being in middle school, 7th grade. I took a spelling test and the vocabulary, I got a 0. I tried. The teacher gave me a 0.
And you tried?
No, it hurt, yeah. But I thought I did all this work and
That usually doesn't happen, because if you try, you might end up with a 30 or a 40 or something, but you tried. Right?
I knew the vocabulary, but she didn't give me.
You were that bad?
credit for the spelling. No, my spelling's terrible. The vocabulary, I knew the terms. I just couldn't spell them. And now with.
Yeah, we're all very intelligent in one part and we're all kind of dumb on another part, you know. With me, it's mechanics. I mentioned to Mr. Marcus, with me, mechanically, if it's more than 3 screws, I'm lost. I don't know what the heck to do. I can't. But I can talk you out of anything, you know, I'm good at talking. So we all have our strong points and our low points. But at the end of the day, are we doing these kids a favor by letting them cut corners and get away with it? It shows that we're not, because when 30 out of 90 kids are failing, even with this system in place, it means they're getting away with not doing nothing.
Okay.
And if you're president, you should be aware that you have 8th graders where 1/3 of them are failing, even with the system in place. Something's wrong somewhere, guys. Maybe it's not this, maybe it's something else. But come on, these kids are 8th grade, they're getting ready to move on to high school, and they can't read. I mean,
That's probably.
and I'm done. Thank you all for your time, and I hope that you take what I've said into consideration.
Definitely. We appreciate you coming and definitely.
Thank you, Pete.
Yes.
Thank you, Pete.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, item number 4, unfinished business. Mr. Chavez, approval of portable relocation preliminary cost estimate.
So I think previously we had shared with you a plan to use the 2 portable buildings that are across the street, cat corner across the street, and repurpose those 2 buildings, one for to be placed over at the middle school, because our track people don't have any place to dress out, nor do they have bathrooms. And so right now they're having to enter into the building But that doesn't, I mean, that presents some challenges at times, with the keeping the building secure and unsupervised kids and whatnot. So we'd like to repurpose that building to be able to do that for our track kids. The other is to use it to place one between the two baseball fields, softball field and the baseball field. Again, same thing. We got the bathrooms over there and the concession stand, but we really don't have like a locker room or something that kids can go and change, especially the visiting team. And we make accommodations, we let them into the locker rooms over in the main building, but it's always inconvenient. It's an inconvenience because it's a ways. And so by doing this, it would give us that ability to have a locker room, but also give us another set of bathrooms out there for our athletes. And so that was the plan. That's what we presented previously. I know we've been talking about it for since even last semester. But we've got some updated pricing, and I believe what is on the table is the most current and revised. And so you'll see on one side you have one, and the other side you have the other. And so I just want to mention that the plan and the cost is not just the cost of moving the buildings, but it's also connecting the buildings, so to the utilities, so electricity, water, sewer, and that sort of thing.
And the inside, the carpet, walls, they're ready to go, anything that needs to be fixed in there, they.
Well, we'll need to do some,
What
some
is that?
facelift and
Yeah,
maybe
so-
paint and
Okay,
things like that.
and
But
is there
that's
carpet
been-
in there or is it tile?
I believe it's carpet.
So
I believe
if it's out there, we would want to put tile.
Probably
correct?
tile,
Or some kind of,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
something, so it's,
easy to clean.
yeah. Yeah, but I agree, we do need that out there.
So we're just bringing this to you again as we reported previously, and one of the things that we didn't have previously was, a price estimate. We had ballpark, but this brings it down to exactly, well, the quotes might be with that. I mean, is this said, this is the quote, okay.
And how much further is for 155 and then the 90? Like, why is there such a big?
So the one for 90 is the one for the middle school. And the reason that one, the cost is a lot less is because we currently already have a lot of those utilities in place. So we already have electrical there, we already have water there, we already have a sewer out there. And so there's
Okay.
not a whole lot to do. And I believe, do we even have the site prep already there? I believe even the site is ready to go.
Did all the portables at the middle school go already, or are they still out there?
We still got one up there. I think we've got one, yes. And so we got that, and so there's additional costs for the other one because it's like brand new. It's like we're putting something in that doesn't have the existing infrastructure to be able to hook up.
And is this the only construction company you got the quote from? Or is there others?
This is ESA. We do a lot of work with ESA because they are a CES vendor. And so we're able to bypass the whole bidding process and then go with a contractor that's already been approved. And so ESA is already approved. So did I get that right, Sheila? Sheila's our expert when it comes to the logistics of that sort of stuff.
And these aren't being utilized at this time, these.
They are not. They are not. These are the ones that were emptied and when we had the Fed department out there. Well, now that they're here, now they're empty.
And
So
it would be also for out of town teams, correct? And I know we have this beautiful building, but I'm just thinking down the road. And the maintenance on it and the cleaning, if we do have visitors coming in, that would be the responsibility of, like, this one would be at the one would be at the track field, the middle school. So that would be the middle school that would be responsible for, or how does that? No, I just want to make sure because it's, we have visitors coming. We want to make sure that those.
Absolutely, we'll make sure. And
Okay.
like I said, like right now, we've got the concession stand and the bathrooms over at the baseball field. And so those.
Yeah,
need to get
those
cleaned,
clean, yeah, but
before
that's
we
got
have
to be
games.
extra too, and.
So
yeah.
sometimes, Mr. Sanchez, contracts with people to
Oh,
do
okay.
that work.
Okay.
And sometimes it's our custodians that do it, you know.
But
it
we
just
do
depends
have, we
on-
could
on
contract and
availability.
make sure that that's,
But no, they would be definitely clean
Okay.
and you know, what's neat about these portables is that it's a big portable with bathrooms in the middle, so it's
Mhm.
two big rooms on either side and then bathrooms in the middle.
Told you
So it's
put it
gonna
in
be
half.
real easy to be able to shut, like
Put-
keep access, you know, one side would have one bathroom and the other side would have the other
Mm.
bathroom.
because
So it'd be real easy to be able to make that happen.
there were classrooms, correct? They used in
They
the
were
classrooms.
classrooms,
So are we approving the actual moving forward with this, or are we
Just the estimates.
just the estimate?
No, we're approving moving
move.
forward approval to move forward.
When would they plan to do it?
What does preliminary cost mean? Like, is that, because it may go up, is that, I did read there that it may go up, right?
I mean, there's always
Yeah,
that
oh.
possibility.
Yes, what was presented in your packet, good
It's gone
evening,
up.
board. No, that was the estimate and we didn't know if we would have this on time,
Oh, so
but we
this
got it
is-
today.
Okay.
So we
Oh.
just got the actual quote. This is what the PO would be made for. Again, if they run into some unforeseen circumstance, they would come
Like you
back.
find gold?
Oh, that was
down there?
nice, yeah. Oil,
We have to dig
let's
out?
go for oil.
Oil?
Yes, so this is the quote. We would create the PO now. We do have money set aside in operational and bond for this. So there's money available to do this. It's also sitting on a piece of property that is for sale. So the portables were not appraised in the appraisal on the property. So if we sell the property, we have to move them. We would like to move them and use them instead of move them and store them.
And if we sell that property, what are we gonna do with shop ag mechanics? That's my concern, because that shop is,
It's our concern.
Couldn't it be taken to the ag back there?
One of the things that we've talked about is, you know, we do have the shop over at the high school. And so, Mr. Duran, you know, he always has a prep hour and, we could definitely open it up to Mr. Villegas, who teaches out there for DACC. And have his class during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. if-
So there's
The
options.
worst becomes the worst, then that's something that we can do. You know, ideally, if we could do something else, you know, maybe build something in the future, that would be ideal.
Yeah,
Can I
the
just throw a-
ACC could add on.
can I just throw a wrench into everything? Right now?
Why not?
Why not? I've been thinking a lot about some things I've been hearing around the community with regards to some of our discipline issues and things like that. I know we kind of talked a little bit about this. I kind of mentioned something to you guys in our budget thing. Have we considered using those portables as an alternative high school? Where we can give some of our students that are really struggling another opportunity to complete school? I'd just like to
Anything's possible.
think about some of the alternatives, because I know some of our kids, they're really struggling in the high school and in the middle school in the traditional setting to meet the requirements. And I mean, if we don't do something to alleviate this, to put a stop on the bleeding that's going on in the schools right now, we're gonna lose so many kids. And that's, I mean, we have a facility here that we could possibly use for that.
Like a last
Mm.
resort kind
Yeah,
of deal.
it's just, it's something I've been thinking
I-
about for a while.
And I know we can ask the parents to help with the discipline and things like that, but bottom line, they're with us 8 hours a day. So that, I mean, that kind of makes sense. We have to kind of figure out how we manage their behavior and improve their behavior, make sure that they're turning in their work and things like that. And I don't know if there's something like that already at the middle school where they do have a place where they're sent and they get the individual help for those that need it, or is there not enough room there or something?
All we have is, right now is we have like an IS6.
Oh, okay.
IS6 type classroom. And, but alternative setting, anytime we have like an alternative setting, it's usually something that's done through, online services.
Mhm.
And then assign a teacher to make sure that to check in on the kid to make sure that they're doing the work. That's currently how we do, alternative settings.
I would like to see if maybe you could kind of determine the feasibility of that request before moving forward. I don't know how the other members of the board feel, but that would be.
How do
my
you
request.
determine who goes to that school?
It's gotta have criteria set. We have to have criteria set in the school so we know.
Because
who's
if
gonna go to
Juan
the
comes
schools.
along and says, well, that one's easier, I'm just gonna go over there.
No, we've gotta set criteria for.
That-
those
that's
sorts
why
of
I'm
things.
asking.
Yeah.
Certified
Well,
teachers
and that's a good point, you know, one of the things that we challenge that we faced coming out of COVID was that we had a large request of kids that wanted to continue doing online learning. And what we were seeing is the kids were just failing miserably.
Mhm.
And so we had to put a stop to that. And so now what we do is only those kids that just either they are some type of disciplinary action, either long-term or they're on some type of medical or something that prevents them from being at school.
In the school.
But I would say, you know, I think a good place to start is to look at how many kids have we long-term in that time, and I don't know if Mr. Sanchez or Ms. Hoageen have that number off the top of their head. But you know, we always work with to make sure that that those kids do have educational services provided to them.
And I know in the past we did have Ace High School, and it was a great idea, but the thing that I guess that it didn't work at the end is because once students went there, they never had a way out to go back to the regular high school. And I think that was the option that was missing. Once you went there, you were pretty much done. And a lot of students didn't want to be there. You know what I mean? So it's, if there's a way that they could work their way back to the high school.
Could it be channeled that way where they get placed over here and they kind of get like readjusted, I guess, and
Where they don't
kinda
wanna be
set-
like, you're saying,
Yeah.
this is no fun. I don't see my friends. I don't go out. I can't hang out and I
it's a little
can't.
harder?
Yeah, it's more strict and.
More strict.
Cause they're behind credits or it's a lot of.
So it's not
They-
just an easy, okay,
Yeah.
let's go to the school, alternative school and get your diploma and that's it.
But this would be only high school. It would not be middle school.
They would have to.
It'd probably have to start off as just high school, but I'm sure there's ways you can work in middle school in there. I mean, the thing is I want choice for our kids. We shouldn't have to say that these kids can't attend school anymore because they're not functioning in a traditional setting. We've got to give the kids choice, and we just can't throw kids away because they're failing and because they're discipline issues. And what's going to happen years down the road when they're living on the streets or they're not holding down a job? Those are my concerns. And then I also have concerns with, you know, some of these students in the traditional setting that are causing so much disruption in that traditional setting, and the rest of the students in that class or in that grade level, they're also suffering because these kids
But
don't
it's
have a
been there
choice.
since we were kids.
But if there's a way we can help alleviate that, wouldn't
Yeah.
it be good to
It's
help
called,
alleviate that?
Board. That we can't use.
That word.
That's what they used when we were growing up. We can't use it. But once you start separating them, the way I feel is, why is he better than I am? How come he gets to go to the real school and I can't? Just because I have. Then they start questioning themselves. Am I different?
They may not be different, but they have different needs.
Yeah, I think that's where the teacher or the educator would come and play and say,
Mhm.
well, you know, we're here to help you get back on track, you know.
But I might be a smart kid or a decent kid. I just have anger issues.
Mhm.
Why do I need to be over there?
Because you can't control your anger issues.
That's where the teacher sits me in the front.
That's
Like,
why,
yes,
that's why you
they
have to have
sit you in the front.
criteria for things like. So you're not just sending kids over there just because. You have to have criteria for it.
Let me just ask, you know, how many kids would benefit from an alternative type? I mean, how many kids have we long-term this year?
Ms. Holguín?
Sorry, I wasn't really prepared, but good evening. I think we were guessing, I think there's been 5 students at the high school that have been long-term. And what we do is we put them on E2020. courses to finish out the remainder of the school year. It's not permanent. So far, most of them, we have some that are going to be able to graduate from completing their work this year. But some are successful and some are not. So having a place for them to go may help that increase that success for them. Any other questions?
Would you be for or against something like that?
I think it's a good point that there has to be criteria.
Yes.
There has to have that. You know, if these things are met, then this is what's going to happen. But Mr. Marcus brought up a good point. There has to be a way out of it as well.
Yes.
Like if you meet, as long as you meet this criteria now that you're in this placement, if you do these things, then you can come back. I like that idea of
And they
having
would,
both
it would require additional
staff.
teachers, staff.
Require additional staff.
Staff, yeah.
Now,
Can-
do we have a classroom where we could send them?
Right now,
Why do we have to have an alternative school?
I guess it's just the setting where you actually take them away from that, where they're not interacting with the other students. It's not a happy place, I guess, so to speak. I mean, it's there because you need that extra help and it's intensive. You're there all day and I don't know. The same school that kind of,
To get it, give them an incentive to want to work their way back into the normal setting, the classroom setting with their buddies and their.
I think it could also work too, and as an incentive to do what you need to do as well.
Yeah, it's,
Yes.
so
You know.
they're not distracted as much.
Mhm. And then to not have to go to an alternative placement, it could encourage others to do what they need to do and be what they need to do and accomplish what they need to while they're in the building.
and really thinking of the other students that they're safe and they're learning. And those kids have those opportunities, because at some point, I mean, those other students that are disrupting the class, it takes away from their learning.
So we're talking about 5 kids, we also gotta. It's been 5 kids over the course of a year, correct?
Yes.
So we're not talking about a large population, we're talking about very few numbers, and I'm just wondering, since we're talking about very few numbers. Could we use the ISS program as a self-contained program also for kids in this type of situation? These 5 kids.
Part of it is monitoring, having staff. Right now, my ISS person is actually subbing in the classroom, so I have a sub in the ISS room, so it's not. But maybe
Well,
if we
but
did that,
you
it would
know-
have to be maybe a certified
Well, I'm
teacher.
saying it would have to. be a
Bringing
certified
in-
teacher. Yes.
Bringing in a certified teacher to watch them.
Here's how it would work out with subjects. Because finding a high school teacher that's certified in all the subjects they would need.
That would
And
be
then are we gonna
difficult.
start pulling that from our regular students to needs of those 5? Are we taking away from the case of our 375 other kids? Are we gonna service those 5 or 6 kids with an individual person? The numbers are taken away from the opportunity of 380 kids that are doing the right thing. You know, it's something that if it's to move them out, then it's really what it is temporary. It's not permanent, right? It's, you know, it may be something to look at what other districts are doing with their alternative schools have come up with something.
Mhm.
You know, it's not something that we could obviously answer tonight, but how are they stacking it? How are they doing it? You know, if they're offsite, then it has to be, I'm gonna guess it has to be staff and certified teachers as well. You know, are we gonna pay preps? Are we gonna, you know, are we gonna do those things for teachers and those become the logistical parts of it? But, you know, anything you do for kids is gonna be good for some kids. Anything we do is gonna be good for some of those kids.
Right.
We just don't know which kids. And
Which kids?
we don't know them.
Now, if you move that portable building, couldn't they use it for 2 things? Use it for the kids during the day and then for sports in the evenings? I mean,
Not from an athletic standpoint. That would be
See.
unfair to the students. That would be unfair, not for the athletes, because they'll have an area, but that's unfair for the students. That you can't give them the space to say, this is good for you.
Right.
Because now it's like, this is good for you now, but we're gonna use it later. and it doesn't have the same effect. When I think that would be unfair, if you're doing that for the kids, then do it for the academics and keep it for the academics.
Okay.
Now, would we need both of them? Could we move one and keep one? Do we, both, because both of them would be what, 4 classrooms?
For classrooms, yes. You know, I don't know, it's something that we're gonna have to really, investigate and think about. Again, it's been my experience, over all the years that I've been in administration, that you get anywhere from 1% to 3% of kids that just do not function well in a traditional setting. And there is a need for an alternative type situation. And so if we could do that, if we could do something like that instead of having a separate alternative school, because a lot of negative, what's the word I'm looking for? Perceptions of an alternative school, because it's like you're sending kids. I mean, like you just said, we're getting rid of these kids, they're going over here. And so I would be supportive of looking at something like that, but do it instead of having a separate school, do it like the school within a school. And having, parameters with that and what that would look like. It would have to be a self-contained classroom. And again, I'm in agreement with, they have to be able to work their way out. But I don't think that it's something that we just do as kids that just would rather be in that. It's truly for kids that just are not doing well in a traditional setting.
Why not this room? That's the discussion.
Oh, that's why you were doing that?
I mean, if that's what it is and it's temporary, why not this room? Yeah. Why not here? Why not where that happens? This is an important room. It's a room that's gonna have tons of services available to those kids here in this room. You're close, you've got things there. It's within that proximity. Why eliminate and say it has to be just?
Okay, so how do you feed these kids?
Those are logistics going to happen no matter whether it's this building, the portable, those logistics are going to be answered no matter where we house them. That would have to be answered if we house them in the high school still and put them somewhere else. It's the same logistical issue. The real question, I think, Mr. Gonzalez, what you're asking is, what are we doing about those 6? Is that, I mean,
What are we doing about
what are
those
we doing?
6?
What are we doing to make it? And what we're having right now may not be effective.
And what are we doing about those kids that might be getting homeschool services because their parents are afraid to send them to school? I mean, these are some of the questions I've been having as I've been thinking about all this stuff.
I think that's the right conversation. The location to me, I think is probably the least important. And ultimately, the real question is what can we get? And I'm gonna say that this way, what can we get to help service those kids more at the high school? Because those are the kids that keep us busy, and not busy in a positive way. Those are the kids we just had a conversation about, is those are the ones we don't sleep about. It's not the kids that are passing and graduating. The issue for us is the 6 kids. Like, what did we do wrong? What else could we have done? What else could we have provided? That's the question that happens in the office all the time. And I'm going back to those are the kids you're talking about. Well, what else can we do within the day? But creating a whole alternative setting for them, I don't know. That's a tough question to ask right now. What if we would have invested, instead of invested more steps to stop that from happening in the first place? Because I want to be more preventative. I don't want to be reactionary. To me, an alt school is reactionary. We're reacting to something bad that's happened to the point now that they're out. We actually do have something. We have Edgenuity. There's a Connections Academy. There's so many programs out there for the kid that can't function in the regular school. But what can we do to make sure they can function within the school? It goes back to what Mr. Atencio said, Mr. Garay said right now is, we want to make them responsible in that, then let's find ways to make them function in the system that's there. Because that's the real lesson for those kids. They got to function. That's when they go work somewhere, they realize, hey, it doesn't change for you because you're different. You have to adjust to the job you're going to. I mean, and so to me, that's what we keep talking about. What have we done? What have we not tried? And I guarantee you right now, to get into a lot of trouble like that, we've not gone once into that meeting and someone said, did you try this? And we're like, yes, here it is. Here's the proof. Here's the information. Well, maybe if we had more support, maybe they don't get there. Cause if out of 6, it only affects 50, that's 3 kids. Well, there's probably some preventative measures those 3 kids could have helped. And then when we look at it, we already know their issues at home. We know their issues at home. We know Miss Olivia Paez knows their issues at home. Our counselors know their issues. There's probably services they're getting from Ben Archer that know that what's going on at home. It's never a kid that just comes in and does something. There's already been like so multiple steps. So, but I go on your comments, Mr. Laws, it's about what can we do for those kids that aren't surviving right now. They're not making it. But there's a
As
lot.
far as feeling safe or whatever, you know. I mean, nothing's ever perfect and everything like that, but, you know, one of the things that I've always said is that, you know, your schools are just a reflection of your community. And we know that there's things that go on in this community. There's, some are shady, some are serious, some are, you know. And I guarantee if it's happening in the community, it's either directly or indirectly impacting what goes on in the schools. So it's a bigger issue. It's a bigger issue than just, you know, kids that are misbehaving in school, you know, because again, as you stated, we've got a lot of kids that come from very dysfunctional homes, and so how do we provide support to them, and how do we help them help us, you know, in that type of situation. So I don't know, I don't like the personally, I don't like the punitive piece of that. There's got to be something that we're working with to make sure that kids are changing behavior. And that's what we're after. We've always been after changing behavior, making sure that kids understand what are the rules and adhering to the rules. And if they're not adhering to the rule, what are we doing to encourage them to change that behavior? You know, everything's about choice. You know, everybody makes a choice, whether it's a child or whether it's an adult, everybody makes a choice. And we don't have control over some of those choices that are made. And but you know, if they do make a bad choice, we do need to intervene, and we do need to make sure that number one, that they understand, you know, that choice was a bad choice, but also how are we helping them? And you know, there does need to be some type of consequence, you know, and because we know that if they don't, one of the things that I always talk about with parents that have children that are troubled kids in school is, you know, I always ask parents, especially in lower grades, is look, if we don't get a handle on this kid now, what's this kid gonna be like when he's 16, when he's 14, when he's 16, when he's 18, and now 18 as an adult? Now, you know, now it's a very different situation, especially when it comes to the law, right? And so, you know, it's working with parents also to make sure that they understand that it's not just the rules that we have in place, but it's also rules that have to be followed in society. And that's the ultimate piece. But do we have some kids that are dysfunctional in that area? Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, my experience has been about 1 to 3% of kids of the total population. And so, you know, provide an alternative setting or alternative situation, absolutely, we can look at that. It would still probably fall under E2020 because as Mr. Sanchez just stated, you know, especially at the high school level, we've got classes that teachers have to be highly qualified to be able to do. So we're not gonna find a teacher that is highly qualified to teach ELA, math, social studies, science, you know, all those pieces. It's still going to have to be some type of format like E2020, that then we have a teacher that supports them through that. And that's something that, yeah, I think we can get behind. But I don't know that we need a totally different facility. That's something that we'll have to investigate.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. So, Mr. Chavez, what is your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation is to move forward with this. And as far as concerns that you brought up, Mr. Gonzalez, we can definitely look at that, and we can look at all the other alternatives to that. I don't know that holding us back on this, because there is a need for this and in those two facilities. But my recommendation is for approval.
Okay. And I'm gonna ask for a motion, but after the motion, after I get the second, we can still discuss that. 4 of us, and then we can vote if we need to. So is there a motion to approve the portable relocation cost estimates.
So moved.
I have a second.
Seconded.
Seconded, okay, moved by Ms. Garay, seconded by Mr. Gonzalez. Discussion. Now that we're here, before we vote, is there,
I really would like to just see what we can do moving forward for those kids that are struggling, to bring back some of our enrollment too for those kids that are being homeschooled because parents are afraid to send them to school.
but in terms of moving the.
Moving the
portables,
portables, I see a need for it, but
Okay.
I'd like to move forward with those other conversations as well.
Okay.
But I do see a need
You-
for
but
it. We
there
want the
is a
kids in
need.
track and soccer and softball. We want them to have a place.
Yeah.
They need a place.
I just have a question on the first quote and the second quote. I mean, is the first quote the same company? Cause it's a big jump.
Well, again, these, what's in your packet was the preliminary, so it was, numbers that we were looking at that we said, hey, can you give us a ballpark? You know, this is the actual quote though, this is
Okay.
what we would go off of.
Is there any further discussion?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I'll call for an individual vote. If you are in favor, say aye. If opposed, say no. Member Garay,
Yes.
VP Gonzalez.
Aye.
Secretary Legarreta,
Aye.
myself, President Marquez, aye. Motion carries 4-0. It has been approved to accept the cost estimates for both portables. Okay, new business, 5A, approval of Open Meetings Act, Mr. Chavez.
It's the first item A is the resolution by the board on the Open Meetings Act. And so something that we have to approve every year. And just to make sure that we're in compliance with the different regulations of the Open Meetings Act.
I have a question. Why are some of these dates in red? Is it my birthday?
They're not the third,
no.
they're not the second week of,
Oh,
they're not the
It's- you're
second
ahead
week
of us.
of.
You're-
Oh,
you're not-
yeah, that's right. We're not even,
You're
I'm
in-
sorry.
oh, we're not
Oh,
there
yeah.
yet. Sorry,
No.
sorry. Perdón. It all goes together. Oh, yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
so is there a motion to
So moved.
approve? Okay, moved by Ms. Garay,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Legarreta. I will call for an individual vote. If you're in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Member Garay,
Yes.
VP Gonzalez.
Aye.
Secretary Legarreta.
Aye.
President Marquez, myself, aye. Motion carries 4-0. Approved. Has been approved, Open Meetings Act for 2024. 5B, approval of relocation. Oh. That's in the resolution of board meeting dates for 24-25.
Okay, so why are they in red now?
Because they're
So
not
they're
the second
red
Wednesday.
Because they don't fall on the second Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've already seen conflicts. The first one is because the superintendent's not gonna be here. And the request is to move it a week later, but another option is to have somebody else in my place to hold it in the regular meeting. That's the board's decision. The others is on January 15th. The regular board meeting, we're still on Christmas vacation.
Okay.
And so that we didn't think that was a good one. And then March 19th, again, same thing as we had this year. This year, we didn't consider spring break. So we had it during our spring break. But this year, we caught it this year and
Okay.
we're asking to push it back a week. So that's why those were in. But we do have to have an approval of and an announcement of the board meetings for the year.
Okay, so moved.
Okay, moved by Ms. Garay.
Second.
Seconded by Gonzalez and Mr. Legarreta. I will call for an individual vote. If favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Member Garay,
Yes.
VP Gonzalez.
Aye.
Secretary Legarreta.
Aye.
Myself, President Marquez, aye. Motion carries. Board meetings approved. 5C. Mr.
5C is the discussion on policy J5000. And we're just bringing this to your attention as a discussion. One of the things that is going on, let me give you the background. before we go into the policy itself. There is a move by NIMSIA to provide insurance for all of our kids, and in the past, we used to be able to offer insurance for kids in athletics. But what's going on now is with the cost of insurance and everything that's going on in the insurance world, what they're no longer going to just focus on student athletes. So what they are going to offer schools is an all in or nothing.
Oh,
Okay, and so what that would do is if we chose to move forward with that, then it would cover all of our kids, not just our athletes. But we would pay for it. And so we're looking at the cost being approximately $3.65 a kid, which would then cost us between $4,000 and $5,000.
per year.
For the year. Now, what that would do is it would cover all of our kids. And 1 hour before school starts and 1 hour after, with including the athletes and everything like that. So as we think about any kid that gets hurt during the school day, so a kid falls off of monkey bars or something like that, they would be covered.
Yes.
And so, or we think about kids that, especially like our high school kids that are doing work study and they're working over at Village Market and they leave the school and go over to Village Market and they get hurt, they're covered.
So let's say, you said it covers them 1 hour before, 1 after school. So let's say they're on their way to school in the morning and they have a car accident. Would it cover that? Okay.
So they're covered.
Oh, wow.
And so that's my understanding. I will definitely check on different scenarios, but it gives them insurance, you know, it gives parents. So if we get any kind of kid that gets hurt, you know, and that's one of the things that I always wondered about is, you know, when we do have kids that get hurt during the school day and we have to send them to the ER.
And even Ben Archer.
You know, I always wondered, gosh, I hope that, you know, that they're financially in place to be able to cover that or have some type of insurance. Well, now they're covered. That would be-
So now, what if they already have insurance? Would this be a secondary? Okay. Okay.
So,
Thanks.
so that's what NIMSIA is moving towards. And so they're offering that to all districts across the state.
Now, did we budget?
Yes, we did budget.
Yay,
Yes.
yay, yay.
Good.
And right now it's just discussion. It's not.
It's discussion. So
Yeah.
that's just the background.
Right.
So what we did then is we looked at the policy to see if the policy was in conflict with that, and that's what we're seeing. That's the way our interpretation is, because it's saying here that we can't provide or we can't pay for any type of insurance. So I have been in touch with our legal counsel, and they are looking at, they're working with the policy service lawyer, and who is also checking into NIMSIA. Because if that is what NIMSIA is doing and they're offering it across the state, it's going to impact not just our district, it's going to impact everybody. So, or everybody that uses the policy service. And so we're just bringing that to your attention to just let you know that we are, we're hoping that the policy service will make that revision. But if not, then we might have to look at doing that revision ourselves. And what would that entail? Is that possible? Is it, you know, it's all those questions that we'll have to.
Hopefully they'll,
Hopefully it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
And hopefully by July, we can move forward with the insurance for our kids.
pretty good.
Hey, item 5B, approval of out-of-state student travel trio, Denver, Colorado.
I want to be a chaperone.
I second. Trio, every summer they take the kids on a trip, on a big trip. Last year they went to Arizona. This year they're going to be going to Colorado, and you know, it's just that exposure. It's a great program. It provides just different opportunities for kids who may not have those type of opportunities if we didn't have organizations like Trio that provide those services for our kids.
Nice.
And so because it is out of state, they are looking for board approval.
Okay, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is for approval.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Caray, seconded by Mr. Gonzalez.
Are they flying or driving?
Looks like here that they're driving.
Are they driving to Denver?
Yes.
Drive back, drive back.
And
it said
small
something.
suitcase. They can sit there, don't take a large.
And that's why it's a small suitcase.
Yeah. Okay, any discussion? No, okay, I'll go ahead and call for an individual vote. If you are in favor, say aye. If opposed, say no. Member Garay,
Yes.
VP Gonzalez.
Aye.
Secretary Legarreta.
Aye.
Myself, President Marquez, aye. Motion carries 4-0. The out-of-state trip to Denver, Colorado is approved. Case. Item 6, items for future meetings. I know we need to put under the FFA, correct? That's one of the
Yes.
things that we need to make sure and get on there. And also discussion, Mr. Gonzalez, you know, what the alternative.
Yeah, I'd like
settings.
to
Continue
continue
it.
our discussion on ideas for alternative.
Anything that. Mr. Legarreta?
No, I just had a question. It has to do with the food stuff. The after-school program, are they getting enough food for them? Are they? We.
You know, they still have to follow the same kind of guidelines and regulations, but, you know, I haven't gotten the update on the numbers of people, but I know, last semester, we were getting quite a few kids that were participating in that. And what's really neat is that they were finishing up with the practice, especially our athletes, right? Finishing up with practice and then they go and, you know.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, absolutely.
So at the high school, they do have the dinner program and a lot of our athletes do take advantage and it's before practice. So they go through and it's pretty much a meal that they're getting. And a lot of our kids that stay for after school programs such as Educators Rising or the bilingual program, they go get a meal too. So it's a full tray.
A full trip.
Yeah. Yeah, at the high school.
I didn't know if it was just a snack or a
Do they do that at the middle school?
full dinner.
I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, all schools.
All schools?
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, that's good.
Well,
So-
thank you.
Most after school programs usually have just a little snack. you know,
Yeah.
or
No, this,
snack
they get a
puppies.
full tray.
Okay.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
This is a requirement of the 21st century after school program. So it is provided to all schools.
Thank you. I have nothing.
And I would like to include, for next school year, I noticed, Mr. Chavez, on for the vacancies that I noticed that there's not a CNI there. Is that position, is that gonna be put under?
Well, so here's the decision that I made.
Oh, okay.
Is I put that on hold.
Okay,
I put it on hold because I wanted, you know, there's so much there was uncertainty with the budget.
Okay.
and, you know, what's going on.
oh, it's curriculum instruction, so we can, or who is that gonna fall upon? Is that that's
Well,
somewhere?
right now, we're redistributing, you know, and we're trying to
Okay.
make things happen. But I wanted to just reevaluate everything.
Okay,
Before we made a decision on that. And the other thing is, you know, now that we've got the budget submitted, we still have some issues, or we've got some good things that have happened. Sheila just informed me that we picked up another $500,000. So that's great, you know, we're halfway there, but we hope to fully recover at some point. But we're still having issues with the upload of our data
okay,
and it being received correctly over at PED. And so for Elsa, she has just been going crazy, you know, because it's just not happening. And but that's not our issue, it's the issue.
I'll take it to.
And so until we got some of that resolved and I wanted to put, you know, that position on hold.
okay. So maybe in July, you would go over the instructional focus for our district, okay,
Absolutely.
so
With-
we'll wait till July.
Well, I'm hoping that we do a lot of that planning in June.
June, oh, okay,
June,
okay,
yes.
okay.
With that 500,000, where did it put us with regards to percentage of our funds allocated to payroll? Cause I know we were at like 87, 88, weren't we? We're pretty high, or 90, we're 90.
Cause it would have been, I think, 85, if we recovered the whole 1.1.
Okay.
Forget it.
We're getting there, we're plugging away. But, it's, in an effort to be transparent, I did visit with, our administrative staff and, supervisors and just to let them know what's going on with the 910B5 and make sure that they understand what's going on. And one of the things that I told them is, I said, I'm trying not to be chicken little and saying the sky is falling, we're okay, we're good, when we talk about the 910B5, that is the future funding, that's funding next year, but that's not our only funding. Yes, we have to capture everything within the budget, but the 910B5 is just that, it's the units and multiplied by the unit value to determine how much. But it certainly doesn't give you the big picture of where we are. So yes, you look at percentages, but it's also that is solely just on the 910B5. Okay, and so there's other funding sources that we can look at to help with the budget overall. If you look at the overall budget, we 36 million, and if you look at percentage of staffing to that, that's about 60. It's less than that. I know one time we had talked about it being about 65%.
That's
So-
operational. Yeah,
Yeah.
multiple buckets there.
Right. So, so we're good. And we're gonna continue to move forward and we're gonna continue to try to recoup the other 500,000, but we're halfway there.
Okay, item number 7, executive session. The board will go into executive session in accordance with section 10:15:1 to 10:15:4 NMSA 1978 Open Meetings Act to discuss limited personnel matters related to sponsorship. No action will be taken until the board returns to open session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay.
Seconded by Ms. Caray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. We are now in executive session. Session in accordance to section 10:15-1 to 10:15-4 NMSA 1978 of Open Meetings Act. The only matter discussed was related to sponsorship. No action was taken. Is there a motion to return?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Caray, seconded by Mr. Gonzalez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. We are back from executive session. Item number 8, next regular board meeting will occur on Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Student Service and Training Center.
Mr. President, we do have the work session scheduled for June. And we initially had penciled it in for the Lewis 4th. Let me get there real quick.
June 4th?
June 4th, however, there is a conflict with Mr. Gonzalez, who's going to be out of town at that time. I did check with our legal counsel. She did say that that she's open on the 11th, if that works better. If not, then what we could do is.
I already had you down for the 11th.
Okay, yeah, I think I mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
Does June 11th work for everyone?
I believe we're out of.
Are you off that day, Joaquin?
No, I'm off that day, but I don't know if I'm coaching that day. No, actually. Good.
Okay.
June 11th.
Okay, so,
June 11th, so we'll have the work
Work
session,
session.
June 11th, and then the regular meeting on the 12th.
okay. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, item number 9, adjournment. Is
So
there?
moved.
Also moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Meeting is adjourned.